Some breeds of sheep that have woolly ears will accumulate earwax in their ear canals, and it does need to be removed. A great time to do this is during the springtime when you're shearing them. I'm about to show you several examples up close of Old English Babydoll Southdown sheep and how I remove earwax from their ears. First, using the tweezers, grab a hold of the wool that's in the ear canal and pull out. Most of the earwax will come out with the wool. This is the safest way to remove the wax from the ear canal. In this example, the wax has come out pretty much in one large piece. With the scissors, carefully trim underneath the wax on the clean wool, being careful not to cut the skin of the animal. And there is one large piece of the wool and wax. Next, I go back and I carefully trim any dirty wool and finishing touches. Onto the other ear. Again, you can see a lot of wool in the ear canal, so grab a hold of that and pull outward and down. And the wax came right along with that wool. Pull down a little bit so you can get some of the clean wool underneath. And trim underneath the wax. Again, being careful not to cut the skin of the animal. Sometimes the wax is very close to the skin and it can be a little tricky. There's another large piece. Remove any finishing touches. And there you have a nice looking ear. He looks a lot better. Second example. Again, I'm pulling the wool out. This one, there's a pretty large, moist amount of earwax here that came out in one piece. That's pretty gross. I am going back a second time just to get a little bit more of the wax. Sometimes it'll come out in one piece and that's nice. Sometimes you have to go back a second time to get it all. And carefully trim all of that dirty wool that's still on there, any last finishing touches. The ear should be dry and have good airflow. Now we do choose to leave some wool on the ears. There you can see I pulled out a piece of hay that was in the wax. That has to be uncomfortable. But we do choose to leave some wool on their ears because I found that they can get sunburned and the flies bite their ears. This example is Clyde. He's one of our wethers. You can see he has a lot of wool on his ear, and that's because this is one of my full-faced baby dolls. Some baby dolls are more open-faced, where they have a little bit less wool on their faces, and he's very full-faced, so he was very difficult to trim his face. Likewise, he also has a lot of wool on his ears. So here I'm just going to be taking my time, trimming all this away. But the nice thing is most of the wax was attached to the wool on him. So just take your time. You don't want to cut the skin. Sometimes the wax can be so close to the skin that it's difficult to find some clean wool to trim. You may have to pull down just a little bit. There's a pretty big piece right there. clean him up a little bit. He's being pretty darn patient. We just got done shearing him, so he's being a good boy. I love how he kind of turns his head as he's looking around. He says, "What's going on?" On to the other side. Again, look at all that wool. There's a lot of wool in his ear, and that's all pulling out in one pretty big piece. So you want to make sure that you're being very safe while doing this. You never want to use anything deep into the canal. Just like with humans, you don't want to use a Q-tip or anything that could cause the earwax to become shoved deeper into the ear and cause the earwax to become impacted. So always stay very superficial with your tweezers. If you should find that your animal has impacted earwax, please consult your veterinarian. And Clyde is looking good. Next example is Oliver. He's another baby doll wether. He's a little more fidgety here. He's a little less patient. We just got done shearing him. And he says, "I've had enough." So Matt's going to hold his face still a little bit for me while I'm doing it. And I'm finding the clean spot in the wool so I can get underneath that wax and trim that off. I love how my cat's in the background watching this. Snip off some of that icky stuff, make them look a little cleaner here. Next is Bonnie. This is a baby doll ewe. She's another full-faced baby doll that we have. So I would anticipate a lot of wool in her ear. It may look like I'm digging deep into the ear canal, but I'm definitely staying very superficial because I don't want to cause any damage. Really, the best thing is prevention. So if you can do this once a year while you're shearing, I can prevent any earwax impaction problems in the future. And this has worked for me for years. Having him in a stand is really helpful to hold him still. Next up is Chloe, a baby doll ewe. So she has a few stray pieces of wax in there that didn't come with the wool, but not bad. She's a very patient girl. Other breeds that don't have woolly ears really don't have the earwax issues. I also have Shetlands and Suffolk and some mixed breed. And really it's just the ones with the woolly ears that tend to get this earwax buildup from my experience. Like I said, when I do this every year, I can prevent other problems in the future. Prevention is best. Again, most of her earwax here is coming out with the wool. So this method of doing this really is the safest. You know, the earwax is attached to the wool. We're grabbing hold of that wool and pulling it out. You really want to avoid digging in the ear canal. It looks so much nicer and cleaner to get that trimmed off. I always think that they must feel like $1,000,000 when they're done with this. because we shear them, remove their earwax, manicures, pedicures, i.e. hoof trimming. But I would imagine that it's difficult to hear when they have that much wax in there, and they can also be wool blind when their wool is growing around their eyes. So they can hear and see much better when all this spring grooming is completed. We're looking at Millie now, and she is a baby doll ewe. We're trimming real close to the skin there. You can see the skin is pink and how close I am to the skin, but I'm being careful not to cut the skin. But I do want to remove all the icky stuff. There's a pretty good piece. And she is a happy girl, all finished.